Hello and welcome to another episode of A Podcast. Your host, Stephen Maxted. And today we have a very exciting guest, Hans Doos, founder of Tenikle, on the episode today. And I'm excited. We use the product personally here. We'll get into the details on what exactly that product is if you haven't already heard of it. And Hans, thanks for making time. And
Thank you so much.
Yeah, responded to the DM on Instagram. That's how we connected and reached out. It was very informal, but we're excited to have you on here. So thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I love Instagram. It connects so many people and products with people.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot of that. Yep.
Yeah. And that's I think that's exactly how we saw the product, although I had seen I don't know when exactly this was actually, date wise, but you guys were on an episode of Shark Tank, and I had first seen your pitch on there, and you were like super awesome, really fun. You were very charismatic on that pitch there and telling your story. So very, very cool. But yeah, first.
Thank you. Yeah, that was it aired in December of 2021, and I was very nervous. You can't tell, but I was very nervous. But something kind of leaves your body when you realize, all right, I'm here, I'm doing it. And you just got kind of locked in. But I was the last to film of the day, and the entire day I was just stressing because I don't know if you saw in the episode my current situation at the time. I was broke, like real broke, and I was about to go up in front of billionaires and the entire, Western civilization that watches Shark Tank. I feel like millions of people were going to see it, and it was nerve-wracking. But I just decided I was going to have an attitude of, whatever happens, we'll, along for the ride of life here, and we'll see what happens. It ended up, really changing the course of my life for a really cool thing. So yeah, appreciate that you saw that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's hard to, I mean, I think there's a few that really stick out. I mean, there's lots of great pitches that happen on there, and obviously with editing and stuff that they only show certain aspects of it. And I'm sure that there were some other really great parts of yours that we, as the audience didn't get to see. I'm sure that you would want to have on there because you're on that episode for about, how long is it? I guess I've not asked that.
I think the airing was like 12 minutes or so, something like that long. But I was in there for over an hour, and I was wearing those, I don't know if you remember, I was wearing flippers, like bodyboarding flippers, and they were pinching my feet because they're not made to just stand in. And so for the entire hour, it was just getting worse and worse and worse. By the end of it, I just threw those things off. Like once I walked out and the end of being in the tank, dude, I was so exhausted, and those my feet were killing me because they're designed to be flat when you're swimming and not standing and pinching against your ankle for an hour. It was horrible, but whatever.
Awesome. What was the outcome from that too? You did get a deal or partnership out of that, right?
Yeah. So I had two offers. One of them was a decent offer, but it was like, hey, we're going to take majority. We're going to hire a CEO to do your job. And I was like, no, that's the whole reason why I did this. I wanted to, even if I suck at being a CEO, I want to learn. I don't want to just let someone else do it. And I found that no one is going to work as hard as you are on your own idea, at least at that stage. So yeah, I was like, no, that's not the way to go for me. Could it have been a good? Yeah, maybe, who knows? But I also really wanted to work with Daymond John, and he had an offer on the table, and he was able to share a bit of his story and how it related to my current struggle at that time. And it just, I don't know, it just felt like we were having a connection. And I really went in there wanting to work with Daymond because I came from the clothing industry myself. I worked at Hurley for 9 years designing T-shirts and board shorts and all that. So him being FUBU, I felt like there might be something there. And he just seemed like a down-to-earth guy. And I'm so glad I did because it's been an awesome relationship after the fact. Not every episode that airs ends up closing a deal after airing. Sometimes it takes, for us, it even took months. But I kind of laid it all on the table. I opened the kimono of where the business was at so that there's no red flags when they do due diligence. And it's like, hey, look. And it actually turned out that it was a lot better off than what actually aired too. Because I explained, I have receivables. I have some other things coming in. But it turned out great. And Daymond's a great dude. He actually, it's funny. I just picked this up at the airport. I didn't plan this, I promise, but he was on the cover of Success magazine,
Cool.
and I texted it to him. Yeah, we text now. We've had lunch together and dinner together a few times. So yeah, no, he's a really cool guy. Really pumped to work with him.
That is such an opportunity. What's the
Yeah.
biggest thing that you've learned from that relationship, or maybe like a top three, if that's easier to answer in that capacity?
You know, I'd say that I'll go top three. Number one, a relationship is only as good as what you put into it, and don't expect a lot out of it. I think a lot of people go on Shark Tank and they expect that, oh, the shark is going to, put me in touch and then boom, it's going to be a success. No, that's when the real work actually begins. Is
Right.
the same goes for any investor. You get an investor, they're not going to come in and save your business. They're investing in you, So I think for me, taking the relationship as a relationship, as any other relationship, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they expect people to do a bunch for them. Damon's not going to sit at my desk and do my job for me. Like, it's my job. But he's going to help open some doors, and if I request certain things, he's going to his team is going to help get things done, and you know just have a positive attitude in the whole relationship is so important. I think that, yeah, and then on top of that, when it feels like, and this actually doesn't have to do with Daymond, or this is more like people in the past, but it applies here too, is never cross a line. Like, things can start getting, oh, here's actually someone from Damon's team calling me now. But never cross a line, never get like, as soon as you cross that line of frustration or something with someone, that's it. That line is there now, and you've crossed that. And I feel like having an understanding that, like, look, this is a relationship that you need to nurture, and if whatever you might be upset about, or things don't feel like they're going a certain way or whatever, if you cross a line, you can't come back from that. And I've never actually really felt that way with Daymond, but I think it applies in all areas of business when you're working in relationships. So yeah, I'd say those are my top two. It's just be cool in a relationship, have fun with it. And, for me, it was, I'm going to get a lot of learning from this guy and this team, and a lot more connections that way. And that's what I've really leaned on, is I've made some friends through him and his group and everybody. So yeah.
Awesome.
Hope that answers.
Yeah, no, that's great. Just, good to hear from your end of things there. I think that's, heck of an opportunity. It's even, just cool hearing this secondhand. You're now, it's like that 1 degree of separation from, really, high level business person, right? In the space, everyone is truly connected, not so different than your product. Connect folks, and kind of like what I heard your pitch there is, you never see an octopus, but I don't know, forget how you worded it, taking a selfie or whatever they always have.
Yeah.
Quite quoted, I think, saying that in that pitch there, and that was really fun. But
thank you. Yeah.
How many years have you been doing this now?
Gosh, I just I looked at my first business plan for this thing, because it initially wasn't the Tenikle product. The name actually kind of came before the product itself, which is a funny story. But the patent was filed in 2015, so a long time. But at the time, I was just, it was a side project, and I'd say that that's the best way to start any business,
Right.
unless you're like, you have a team of co-founders and you guys are going all in, you're eating top ramen in your dorm room. Like, that's one way to go, and that's probably going to be faster and more effective. The other way is have a job that's a great job, pays the bills, keeps the roof over your head, keeps you fed, and work on it at night, side hustle, just keep crushing along and getting it moving. But yeah, I didn't go full time into it until 2018, and I definitely even wasn't ready in 2018 to go full time. I just, I saw the revenue numbers, like, oh yeah, I could do this now, and I didn't realize how freaking hard it was. But yeah, so since 2018, so about 6 years full time, which is kind of wild to think about. But yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, when you made that jump into it, and you kind of say, like, hey, maybe timing was a little bit off. Ultimately, it got you to the place you're at today, so it was a good thing. But what would you have changed about that transition?
I would have kept my expenses a lot lower than I did. I think, I had my girlfriend at the time, who is now my wife, and we have a baby and another one on the way. We were like, "Hey, this is awesome. Let's go move to San Diego and run this business." And we had this I don't know, this idea of what it was going to be like, and then you go and do it, and it's a lot harder than I realized. Like watching money fly by, that was kind of the thing. Not necessarily in our expenses, but just expenses in general in running a business. I mean, it's really hard to be profitable, and especially if you decide to up your rent in the middle of it. And yeah, so I'd say that what I would do, and what I wish I would have done maybe, is simultaneously have kind of more of a consulting type business, or some kind of independent contractor business running alongside it, ahead of time, that could be sustainable. I did a lot of that anyways. Like I had a bunch of side jobs, like kind of getting this thing off the ground, and that always helped pay the bills, and that was so important. So I think having that sort of set up ahead of time, like if there's some kind of, like if the job that you're at, you can work something out where, hey, I'm only going to come in once a week, or whatever that is, just having that extra income is so important.
Interesting. What were one of the biggest or bigger expenses, like you were talking about, kind of managing that cash flow and stuff? What was something that stuck out to you?
Shipping. That's one thing a lot of e-commerce businesses, they don't really think about how, because shipping, you kind of have to pay up front for shipping. At least it depends on how it's set up. It's either you pay afterwards or you pay up front. But the product cost was never product cost is heavy. it does suck to hold a bunch of inventory at a time, but shipping is one of those things that you don't really think about until it's there, and it fluctuates so much. It's like, hey, we're raising rates. Like, oh, okay, I gotta manage our acquisition costs even deeper now, or it's a lot of those things. So the more items you can send in a shipment means the more that the customer is going to be spending on that order, and the less it's going to cost to ship multiple items versus every time you ship a single item, it's going to cost more than a bunch all at once. So the more you can try to build bundles and different offers that upsell and have people ordering more things at once, and for a single product item, that's pretty hard to do, but we found that it's such a good gift for people. So in the holidays, that's where we really push hard, is bundling for, I mean, it's the perfect gift for anyone, can use it. So it's a great product for gifting, definitely.
Yeah. No, I mean, well, I'll take the opportunity to show off, and we have a few of them here. That's our chat kind of blurs
I got
out.
mine right here on my phone. So, yep.
Yeah, and they're awesome. We use it for attaching. We have a few different mounts and stuff. Even in the podcast space here with different cameras. But no, they've been great to work with. I think a lot of creators and folks out there should be at least checking these out if they don't have a product already that is helping them out with this. This has been really great for us, genuinely. Not just a plug here. We're using this thing, so
that's awesome. It's cool to hear. Thanks so much. Yeah, I tried to just make the most useful thing I could for tech. It's like, what can I do that's like a usable product that you can use every day in many different ways, and that's where Tenikle came in.
That's awesome.
So cool. I'm glad you're using it. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, what did the first prototype look like for you when you were doing this thing, or what was that process like?
Yeah, it's funny. I was today I was working on new product stuff, and it's funny how different my approach is now than what it was. I mean, a lot of it is still the same, like sketching ideas and that sort of thing, and then taking it further along. But back then, I didn't know how to really get a sample of anything, and I needed a physical product that I can film so that I could launch my Kickstarter with and do that, even though I didn't have production ready product yet. I needed some. So initially I started 3D printing my own molds. So I learned a 3D design program called Rhino. It's a great program, but it's got too many bells and whistles. I use a simpler one now. But I was at there's a place in Orange County called Irvine Spectrum, and I was walking around. There's this little kiosk booth that was selling miniature figures of yourself, like 3D printed. So you can go and then take a body scan of you, and they'll 3D print you, and they'll give it to you and pay for it. And I was like, hey, will you guys 3D print other things for me? Like, and they're like, yeah, sure, all right. And I'm like, all right, what do you need? And they're like, just email us the file. I'm like, okay. So then I would make the 3D files of the molds of it, and I would send it to them, and they would 3D print the mold for me. And because the product was silicone, usually you use silicone as the mold, but because the end product was silicone, I had to make the 3D print be the mold, and then the thing come out as silicone. So I had like art silicone and all this stuff. The very first one was made with like surf wax that I like modeled, and then I poured this thing. It was horrible looking, but it kind of like got the idea across. I could share images of it. And then with this other, I was going way too crazy on this whole prototyping thing. I thought like, oh, I got to make the perfect thing. And I was in the garage all the time. It took me months. I did like 100 prototypes. Like, this is going nowhere. And finally I was just like, all right, I need to source a factory and just get this done. So then I sourced a factory in the US, showed them my drawings and everything. And they went and they required the molds to be made, obviously. And the molds cost me $40,000 for molds tooling, which, looking back now, I got ripped off, dude. Like, molds do not cost $40,000 to tool. Maybe if they were tooled in the US, but they had them tooled in China and shipped here. So it was a mess. But anyways, finally got the final prototype from them, which was honestly a piece of junk, but I needed to launch with something. But it was enough for me to like make a Kickstarter video and launch this whole thing and get it out there. And then we were off to the races. Yeah.
That's very cool. And I mean, I feel like if you don't have a story like that, you don't really know what some of that stuff's worth.
So much learning the hard way. I mean, now like we make a new product, and oftentimes I'll just hand over a napkin drawing of like, hey, this is kind of what I'm thinking. Or usually I still draw it in Illustrator, so it's like a little cleaner. But I have in the past done like a crappy sketch and like, hey, make me this. And then they come out with 3D design and everything, and hand it over, and there you go. So it's a lot simpler than I made it out to be. Yeah.
Awesome. That's that's quite the journey. It's very interesting to go through like a product development, and you're the one doing the entire thing. But it sounds like from prior experience, you had like some of this skill set was already there for design and creating new products, whether it was mostly like shirts, you said was the focus?
Yeah, it was clothing. It was board shorts, t-shirts, board short prints. I wasn't actually doing the cut and sew design, but it was all print graphic stuff. So I guess I learned how to, that was really helpful to know how to draw and like get your ideas across. And a lot of in that industry, you have to build like what they call it a CAD file, and it's like artwork and stuff. So that you tell the printers how it's printed and all that stuff. It's kind of the same thing in any product design, at least on the simple consumer product level. But so it definitely helped educate me.
That's awesome. No, this is just such a cool product and conversation around the whole journey. I'm just soaking it in here. What I know, how big is, this is how we kind of discover you guys too, but how big is social media for you guys in terms of like launching and having success? A lot of people talk about it. We spent a bit of time on the podcast, even, promoting what we do here, but how big has that really been for your product?
Yeah, it's kind of everything. But we could always be better, right? Everyone's always feeling that. For us, earned or like organic has never really been that much of a driver for the overall growth of the business. If you want to grow, really the only way is spending money on ads, at least from my experience. I know that that's not the same for a lot of other brands who have unlocked certain codes on their algorithm with the type of content that they're making, and it's awesome. Like I was just getting super into that Smashed Army. Have you seen that? The girl, Nicole the intern, was her persona, and she was like just smashing cans to prove to her boss that smashing the can is more effective than his entire marketing strategy. And that was great. And it totally went viral. And everyone was behind this push of like her getting to 500,000 followers. And then it kind of tapered off towards the end. But, really effective organic things like that they're so interesting. We just have never cracked that code, to be honest. We've tried. I feel like we throw so much at the wall, but at the end of the day, the things that sell the most are just running ads, and you got to pay for it. But you kind of build in your margins, what your ad costs are, and all these things, and it's a good way to get the hyper growth that way. Because effectively, once you find a working ad set, you just dump more money on it, and it just keeps working until it doesn't. So it's always fluctuating. They're always changing, the algorithms and everything. They don't tell you. I think the amount of money that Facebook has made off of this thing versus how much I've made, like, it's sickening. And there's no like customer service at Facebook you can call, like, hey, why is my ad not working now? You just kind of have to figure it out. It's kind of frustrating, to be honest. But that's something I'm always learning too, is like, how do we change, how do we find cheaper eyeballs and that are effective? Like you don't just want to blast it out just to blast it out. You want to like create a fan base and do that. And slowly over time we start growing, our email list grows, our follower counts grow, and all that. But right now I'm really interested on advertising on X, actually, because what they call a CPM is a cost per mile, which is a cost per 1,000 views. On Meta, it can range from $25 to $35 CPM. Right now we're seeing on X, it's like 3 cents, which is insane. Like, that's crazy how much cheaper that is. So that's, Gary Vee always says, go where the eyeballs are cheapest. And it's a hard one to crack over there. I think it's a bit of a political mess and, a bunch of other things, but it's working for some folks. And I was told by someone that I recently spoke with that he thinks that's the next TikTok because it's so much cheaper eyeballs, and there's a lot of younger people getting on there too. So I'm interested to try that out. So could be a good one.
I think that's great feedback. For folks out there to just like observe or kind of like learn, hopefully some stuff from those comments. I appreciate you going through that. What is and I guess this kind of like segues perfectly off that, but what's the sales cycle like for you guys? So we have, talking about like social media, obviously a big impact. It's like you mentioned, been almost everything for you guys in terms of getting the brand out there. But what does the normal sales cycle look like for the product, and when's that busiest for you guys?
So throughout the year, we kind of change our strategy. Like I mentioned, a huge portion of our business actually happens in Q4 because of gifting. But to get to that point, you want to have the rest of the year kind of doing awareness and paying for itself, so that when Q4 comes around, you can really triple down in bundle offers and all that stuff for gifting. So the way we kind of structure it is, instead of trying to get the highest AOV earlier on throughout the year, usually that starts to turn around July. Then people seem to be spending a little bit more. I don't know what it is, but earlier part throughout the year, we try to just go for what is the lowest cost for getting a new customer and getting eyeballs on the business that we can possibly get, versus at the end of the year, we don't care as much about the cost of acquiring customers. It's more how much can we increase our average order value on these customers. At least that goes for e-commerce. Retail is a whole different story. But for us, we try to make that shift early on in the year. Like, what can we do to just like drive the value, get people to like, what's an offer that they cannot refuse? And so earlier in this year, we had a good amount of return products that were like missed shipments. Some are just straight up returns. But all from like last year's Q4, all the returns kind of start being done, returned around February. Granted, we were doing crazy numbers last Q4. Like, I think we had a few weeks we're doing 1 million a week, which is nuts. And so the amount of returns are going to be, in line with that. So if it's a 2% return rate, 2% of large numbers, also kind of a larger number. So we had all these returns. I'm like, well, we can't sell these because they're not in boxes. Like, what can we do to utilize them in a positive way? So we launched this initiative called Upcycle. So it's just taking product that we don't want to sell as a finished done product. We might need to like reattach some things onto it, all that, but they're out of their packaging, and they might look a little bit less presentation wise. So let's give it to people for free. Like that's an offer they can't refuse. Have you been waiting to try a tentacle? Well, we have this upcycle program. All you have to do is pay for shipping. And so that was a way to essentially utilize all this product that we couldn't do anything with and give it to people for free. They just have to cover the shipping cost. And, so the margin is there. And our average cost of acquiring customers now is $5-10 versus, other times of the year, it could be upwards of 30 something bucks. So that was a really good way to kind of do that. And then with the goal being more eyeballs, more people using the products, word of mouth that happens out of that. When we turned off ads entirely, just cut it all off in March, and the amount of sales we were doing with 0 ads running, it was actually pretty cool. If I wanted to, I could just like basically cease all operations of the business, just have inventory sitting in a warehouse waiting to fulfill, because the product is known enough that people are going to go search for it and buy it if we don't have ads. So the more people that we can acquire at that lower cost, the more that brand awareness is happening and all that. So yeah, that was a very long way to explain your question.
No, that's awesome. That's an interesting experiment. Actually, I would with this the coffee meeting the other day. What if you turned everything off? What would happen?
Yeah,
And
it was scary to do, but honestly, I was just getting frustrated. I was like, sometimes Facebook ads, because if that's really the growth channel, I think for a lot of e-commerce business, it can start feeling like the casino for your business, where it's like, it was working before. It's like, buddy, there's a time to walk away from the table. So that was kind of like my way of, it just didn't feel like it was really working. The profits weren't quite there. I didn't want to just keep running it just to keep running it. Let's take a step back. Let's reassess what we're doing. And in doing that, we turned everything off, and it was like, whoa, like this is back in the early days of what we were doing monthly, what we were spending to get that. Like, if I turned everything off, I could feed my family with just that. That's kind of cool. So, yeah.
No, that is very awesome. Now, you were mentioning before we jumped on here about some expansion, and what's that looking like for you guys coming up?
Yeah, so right now we're expanding globally, which is rad. Obviously, the podcast there in Canada, we are now shipping to Canada. So on Tenikle.com, you can order direct, or on Amazon. I believe we are shipping to Canada on Amazon as well. So Amazon, Canada, UK, Australia, New Zealand, and then we have some in the Benelux region in Europe. And we're starting to get a little bit more Europe. So that's the global expansion, if you will. And then product-wise, I was never intending to be an e-commerce business, to be honest. I wanted to be a product business. I had ideas. I wanted to make stuff. And so launching into retail really helps with some of that, because now we have retail partners that we can start doing more with. But the expansion and it's mount stuff anywhere, right? So let's make the stuff that you can mount with. So, personal fans, lights, speakers, like all the fun things that you can mount anywhere. Let's make that. And then let's dive a little deeper into more the influencer community, that a lot of folks are using this product, not just as their car mount or their desk mount, but actually to like create content. So deeper on that level. And then deeper, because we have some of these retailers are like C-suite stores, which convenience store type stuff. A lot of, the kind of retailers that we have are all over the board. But, charging is a super important part of, you run into a 7-Eleven, you need to grab a charger real quick. So instead of just selling tentacles, let's like also create some of the other things that people are looking for, but let's have our twist on it. Let's really do our version of charging cables, blocks, all those things. So we have some really exciting things that we're launching coming up here. So yeah.
Awesome. I can think of a couple things if you're using sections that might be very effective.
Let's talk. Let's talk. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, awesome. And how about not to get too in the weeds on politics, but often, a lot of our mutual news, Canada side or stateside, is influencer discussions around election. What does that affect business for you guys as you're doing this expansion, or just in general? Do you find, in like Meta, I know we're kind of chatting about this before, but there's a lot more stuff on news that way.
Yeah. No, that's a good question. I think this year in particular, we've been feeling the heat, at least on the macroeconomic end. I think people are a lot tighter with their wallets. They're nervous about what's going to happen with the economy. I mean, at least here in the US, it's like, all about this election. It's like, guys, everything's going to be fine. Whoever wins, it's not going to end the world. We're all good. And there just definitely is a consumer sentiment that's a lot more reserved on spending for an item that is, I think, taken as an impulse item. It is an essential if you're a small business owner, or like you really need a Tenikle to like film your content and do all that. But I think that, well, not only that, just on the consumer sentiment side, but also the cost of ads is also increased because there's, I think, the Harris campaign just announced that they raised over $500 million for this campaign. So all that money is going to get spent in what we're also spending on. So all the costs are going to go up. And another one is Temu is a big player on ad spend. And I think that that's been a huge reason for the increase in cost, because they don't even care if they're making money. They're just trying to get users. So they're just spending like nuts. So between election spending, taking up ad space, also this Temu thing, which I guess isn't really political, but I'm just gonna say, don't buy from Temu. It's cutting someone out somewhere along the way. It's bad. It's bad for Western civilization, I think. And they steal innovation. Whatever. I'm not going to get into it, but between consumer sentiment on, what's happening, like half the people want this person to win, and the other half of it, and they're both like scared about who's going to win. It's funny to me, but Anyways, that's my answer to politics. we try to stay away from all politics as much as we can. So
no, absolutely. But I know it. I mean, obviously, it's going to affect ad spend, like you said, because other people are investing in that same space, trying to grab attention that way. So totally relatable to business. I'm glad that we covered that in conversation here, because it's an interesting thing. I think if you're not the one paying for the ad or swiping the card, in that avenue of small business, I don't think it's often, taken into consideration when folks are seeing ads or different things on there that's ultimately driving the price up, and cost of getting in front of folks goes up.
Yeah. There's inflation just on the ad spend. I definitely think that there's a what was I going to say? I kind of lost my train of thought now. But I was trying to say that I totally lost it. I had something exciting to say, and I totally lost it. It'll pop in my head randomly, but
just pop back in when that happens. On the retail side of things, so a part of your business is also you guys are available in retail stores. What stores are you available? I know I creeped on the website, so I know this, but where can folks find these if they're in stores and shopping and looking to buy from you guys or your product?
So we're in some Verizon retail stores. They're like dealer network stores. We're in a few other smaller dealer network type things. We're in Lowe's Home Improvement, which has been a great account for us. And we are launching in a ton of other retailers. So Urban Outfitters, Walgreens, West Marine. Like, look at how different all these are. Pilot, Flying J. I think we're working on Love's and some other like gas station type stuff, and a few other really big ones. I probably shouldn't say yet because we're not there yet. But yeah, so it's a very broad, if you catch my drift on that's the thing with this product, is it can kind of chameleon into different categories. So the category buyers typically looking for this item would be like an electronics category buyer, but it's great end of aisle checkout, impulse, even sporting goods, that kind of thing. But yeah.
No, I mean, we have use cases for it almost every day on like the filming side of stuff for content that we work with some other companies doing that, and because we have multiple phones and we're filming things, it's a great way to like stick this product. So like I said, not a paid ad here, but genuinely use the product and enjoy it. And like there's tons of stuff that we use it for, but what's something unique that you've seen someone use the product for that you didn't think was going to be something that you've seen them use it?
I mean, a lot of it is kind of, it's all unexpected. It's expected to be unexpected because it's such a versatile thing. What was one I saw the other day? It was a construction worker was using it with a laser so that they can like get the lines right on something, and they had it mounted up all crazy with their laser to like do that, because it's a quarter 20 mount, and most items that attach to things have a quarter 20 on it. So that was interesting. And then there's all the crazy content things that people are like slapping on the side of their boat and getting that water shot, which I think is kind of nuts and ballsy to have I just remember the old days with the bad version of the product, watching that thing fall all the time. So it gets me nervous on the side of the boat, but hey, to each their own. And then the other thing I think that's not necessarily thought about is so I call my customers every now and then. Like I'll just rip through our Shopify and like randomly call people who have purchased from us and just check in with them, just to like get the overall sentiment on the brand and everything. Yeah. And I called this guy who was mad. He was really pissed off, and I was like, oh shoot, this is going to be a bad call. And it was a customer service issue. Turned out he was emailing the wrong email account. He was trying to get through to customer service and no one would get back to him. And he was really upset. I'm like, okay, well, we'll work this out. Like, what's your address, all that stuff. And he's like, yeah. And he was like, yeah, I need this because I use it every day. Like, you don't understand. Like, and it just took me back. I was like, whoa, like this guy's mad because it is not in his life right now. And he's trying to get, it was our old clip that we had. That's why we updated the product. We always update the product, but our old clip was breaking at this one part, and he was upset that he didn't have the clip for it. And so we got it to him and everything, of course. But to me, that was very unexpected that like he was upset because he didn't have his tentacle because he's using it so much. I was like, wow, that was pretty cool to see. That was like the ultimate goal of like an inventor, is to like impact someone now on a small thing. I mean, I'm not changing the world. It's silly. It's like it's a bendable mount for your phone. There's so many mounts out there. I'm not changing the world, but for someone to like be that into the product, that when I randomly called him, he was upset because he was using it and he was explaining all the ways he was using it. It's like, yeah, in my car, then I have it at my desk at work, and then I use it. I think he worked at a machine shop or something, and he would have it on off to the side it was pretty cool to see that. That was very unexpected.
That's super cool. No, I can really appreciate, that dialogue that you would have had with him, because you get on there, you're like, oh, like you have the moment of sweating.
Yeah, you're like,
and then you're like,
bad call.
Yeah.
I mean, of course we took care of it. I sent him an extra one, and it was kind of cool. It was a weird experience, but it was cool. Yeah,
that's awesome. Have you ever had anyone that's like kind of, I guess, again, unexpected, but part of the journey that really has helped promote product just kind of randomly, that found really good use, besides this gentleman that you spoke with, that has helped the brand grow? Maybe influencer style person out there. Any highlights like that?
Yeah. Let me think. I feel like there's everyone I meet along the way. It could be someone that's not even related to the business at all. That if you're open to reception on what people are saying, sometimes that's what you need is I don't know. If there's anyone in particular, I'd say go watch or listen to. Man, I'm kind of blanking right now. on the influencer end of it. But I'm thinking of a few people in my life that have been impactful. This guy, Matt Pell, that is really our liaison with the factory. He just sold his business, which is awesome. He exited his, and he's been helping on Tenikle stuff. Just thinking about retail different and thinking about product different. He's a very analytical guide, and we were actually laughing about that the other day. Is like, we're so opposite. I'm so like, people pleaser, dreamer, and then he's so analytical. And so he's been great. Met him through another guy who's a partner in the business, actually, Cody, who's rad. And I mean, he's been a huge help in so many ways. And then just random people meeting. This is kind of a cool thing. I joined this peer group called Tribe, started by this guy named Trenton. I met him on X, and we just started. I joined the thing and just meeting all these amazingly talented people. And I think there's maybe only one other consumer packaged goods product company in there, but they're all different entrepreneurs. And the entrepreneurship journey is super lonely. Like, it is. Like, if you're like, none of my friends are entrepreneurs. Well, actually, I do have one friend who is, and she's crushing it. She's but all my friends, that I grew up with, that I'm still friends with, are not entrepreneurs. They're all firemen and teachers and stuff like that. And here I am trying to do this crazy thing. So having this peer group has been really cool, because you get to talk with people who are going through it, or have gone through it and have exited. And I think that's been the coolest thing for me most recently. It's called Tribe. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's an awesome plug. That's really great to hear too. I know that talking to other folks, definitely not alone on that loneliness and stuff. It's so.
If anyone wants an intro, hit me up on LinkedIn or X, I guess, Hans Dose, and I'll intro you. There's kind of a process to get in. It's not like I think they only take a finite amount, but yeah, happy to connect people.
Awesome. Yeah. Hans, outside of your own, but that's a really good segue for how to get a hold of you or follow the journey. You on your like personal handles, it's just like your name on different social medias, and or what is the best way to follow the journey on different socials for you guys?
Yeah, so Tenikle is at Tenikle, Tenikle, across everything. That's why I spelled it all wrong, because you don't have to fight anybody for a word that doesn't exist. And then for me personally, it's just Hans Dose. I think it's Hans Dose _does on X. Apparently I had already had a Hans Dose and I can't log into it, so I had to make a new one. But that's there. And then I am actually launching a DIY inventor like whole deal coming up soon. I have the website squidlaunch.com, but I haven't really done anything with it yet. But the plan is to help other people launch their, start their thing and do it. And I'm just trying to figure out like, okay, should I monetize this? How should I do this? Whatever. But yeah, it's not really anything yet, but you can go sign up to the email list at least to hear when we do something with it.
Sure. What's that called again? Say it one more time for us.
Squid Launch.
Squid Launch.
Yeah, it's like we launch squid. You get the tentacle tie-in, right? Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. No, I think that's super great to hear, and thanks again for making time to be on the episode, Hans. Is there anything else you want to mention before we wrap things up here?
If anyone's thinking of starting a thing, do it. It's hard. It's really hard, but it's so rewarding, and you're gonna learn a lot. Yeah, if anyone wants to, go for it.
That's awesome. Love that advice. Well, it's been great chatting with you today, Hans. I really enjoyed the time. I'm sure listeners did as well, and learned a lot from you and on your journey. And there is always ups and downs. So we really appreciate your time today. And thanks again.
Thank you. Thanks so much. That was fun. All right.
Take care. Thanks.